Morning, everybody. Lovely to see you. I can only tell you we've got a packed agenda over the next 2 hours. I am right up against it time-wise because we've got so many wonderful speakers that wanted to come along on this day 5 of our involvement week. So I will have to be running a tight ship in terms of sort of time management. So how it's going to work is we have got people coming in at sort of 10-minute slots to do their presentations. They will do that. If there's some time within that 10-minute slot for some questions, absolutely we will take them. If there isn't, I am going to have to say no and move on to the next person because it's just not fair to keep people waiting. So we're running through till 1 o'clock. There's no break planned, but obviously if you need to take a break, that's absolutely fine. You don't need to tell us, just do that. Come back, drop in, drop out, make yourself a cup of tea, but get comfy and get ready for 2 hours that hopefully is shining a spotlight on some fantastic work that's happening across the country with great stuff to be told from tenants and residents. So we're going to get going. I am delighted first and foremost to introduce as our first speaker today, David Hampton, who is not only our board member at TPAS, a wonderful board member as well, he is also part of Southway Housing Association and runs a Tenants and Residents Association there. So David, over to you, and off you go when you're ready.
Oh yeah, thanks for the introduction, Louise. So I guess I don't need to do that part. But yeah, I'm a very involved tenant and have been for a very, a number of years now. I came into social housing in sort of quite difficult circumstances, shall I say, and it became obvious right from the get-go that there are a lot of issues that tenants face. And very quickly, I became sort of a very passionate advocate for tenants and their rights and all the rest of it. And it's led me on an incredible path. As Louise said, I've become a TPAS board member, and I'm also as soon as opportunities came at Southway, which is where I'm based in South Manchester, they're my local housing association. I took an opportunity to join the board, and I'm also on the audit and risk committee and do other things as well, and just became a very strong voice for tenants at these meetings. And just as I became more involved in the sector and learned more about it, I just became more and more passionate. And then from that, I felt very strongly that the community I lived in, the estate where I lived in, our voice was quite poorly listened to. We were quite a forgotten community, and often things could be sort of imposed upon us without necessarily our consent, or we could be forgotten altogether. We're at the back of this sort of large cemetery, so we're quite tucked away from everywhere else, and we're quite isolated. We only have one bus per hour and things like that. So I decided, no, we've got to have our own resident group. There had been one previously, but I think COVID put a stop to so many resident groups, and I think just generally they sort of drifted away. But I just think they're so important, and I was like determined to make one happen on my estate. So it was a really interesting process. It took a long time. Thankfully, Southway encouraged me tremendously. Thank you. They were very keen, which was great to see. Obviously, the new consumer regulations have, been great for tenants as well, and really put the focus on their rights and the fact that they do need to be listened to. So yeah, it was a bit of a struggle. It took a good few months to get going. We had to go around leaflet dropping, encouraging tenants. I don't know what other areas are like, but in my area, people have become very sort of negative and sort of apathetic and stopped caring about things and just felt they weren't being listened to, and they'd almost given up. So it was a bit of a struggle to get going. It took a good few months, and sometimes there were more councillors and Southway staff and all kinds of interested groups than there were tenants turning up. But thankfully, it's really got going after, we've been going sort of probably a year and a half now. And we just got so many tenants now who come along. So many people are so passionately involved. And we get all sorts. People have this sort of cliched view of what what people are, like living on these estates. But we've got sort of, I don't know, teachers, nurses. We've got a guy who's just done a PhD. We've got all kinds of people. It's a very wide variety. Retired people, obviously, people with health issues. It's a great group of people, and we have the police there. We have people from all around the community, from the tenant union, councillors, Southway staff. It's just great. We all get together, and we've been having really positive discussions. We're getting to the point where we do feel listened to, and we've started doing really positive things on the estate. So we do just things like litter picking. We did active streets events to get kids involved, because that's the big theme for us, that we want more and more kids to be involved, because I think our estate, like a lot of other estates, have drug issues, and so easily kids can get drawn into that kind of thing. So we want to encourage, positive things for kids to get involved in. So, I organized an Easter trail for them to do. And that's the kind of wrestling group that we've become, one that tries to be active in its local community, but also has healthy discussions with Southway, so that if there are issues, whether it be ASB or fly tipping or whatever, all the usual things that you see on estates, we have this fantastic opportunity to speak directly to Southway staff. And I must say, at the last meeting, it was something special, because we had the CEO from Southway come along. So a bit of royalty, but we also had the chief inspector from South Manchester, the police chief inspector. So yeah, we're attracting all the big celebrities now. Once word gets around that there's a sort of passionate and active tenant group, and everyone seems to want to be involved. Because we do have problems on the estate, and one of the reasons why the chief inspector was there at the last meeting is that there'd been a major police incident, and he'd come along to apologise because we didn't get PSOs coming round as they're supposed to be after there's been a big police incident, to reassure tenants. So that that's the kind of influence that you're starting to get. All the big players in the community are coming along, and it was really good of him to come along and apologise. But that's what starts to happen with these things, when tenants come together and make themselves heard. And like I say, with the new consumer regulations, this is the time. This is the time. This is when tenants have to be listened to. We have to be involved in the decision making of housing associations. They have to have our safety, and all the other issues like repairs and everything else. They have to be on top of these now. There's kind of like a much more of a legal obligation. Obviously, there's the new C rating that they're all sort of worried about. So it's a big theme. Get tenants involved. So for me, it's just all come together so brilliantly. It's just the right time, I think. If I want to sort of get across anything, is to encourage people, to get their own groups going, because it may be difficult at the start. There may be a lot of, as there was where I said, as I said, there was a lot of apathy, and people had become, feeling disenfranchised, and all the rest of it. And you have to just get out there, send out the leaflets, encourage people, even I don't know, twist their arm a little bit. But once they come along, it's just brilliant, and it's a really positive thing. And we have regular meetings now every 2 months. They're an hour and a half, and we talk about all sorts. And it's just a great way for tenants to get things off the chest. And positive things are happening. Sometimes it can feel hard going. And there are issues that aren't always dealt with straight away. But for example, we've been having ASB, really serious ASB in my local area, and I think in part because of the tenant group, we're now getting fencing in our shared spaces, and not just here where I live, but across the way as well. There's been some serious ASB, and for years, Southway hasn't been listened to. But now we've come together, we have one voice, and so, obviously the new consumer regulations have helped. But this is it. This is what's happening now. Things are happening, and positive things are happening, and we are being listened to. So I guess that's where I'm coming from. For me, it's been an amazing journey. I came into social housing, like I say, in difficult circumstances. It was, I mean, this was 7 or 8 years ago. To be honest, it was in a dreadful state. My flat didn't have proper insulation. It was shoddy, damp, and all the rest of it. But that was 8 years ago. But that's where my passion comes from. It's knowing how it was and how we don't want it to go back there. And the only way to ensure that that doesn't happen is for tenants to really get involved, to get over this barrier that's developed over the last sort of 10, 20 years of not being listened to, and realize that actually, and it did unfortunately take a tragedy, as we all know, but actually this is the time to get involved, to get passionate again, and know that we are being listened to. We are becoming an official group. We've got the meeting on November the 26th, our inaugural meeting. So from then on, we'll be able to apply for grants and all the rest of it. I've got big ambitions. We lost our community centre a few, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. But this is the kind of thing that happens if you don't have a passionate tenant voice. So that's my big ambition looking in the future. And I think we can achieve it now because we're just getting stronger and stronger. So I am conscious how tight, and I've got my timer here. I think that's my 10-minute slot. So yeah, I hope that's been okay. Thank you.
It's been great, David, and what a fantastic way to kick today's session off with such a positive and uplifting and really sort of impactful story as well. You're making real changes, you're making things happen. And I think you spoke there, fantastically to show what difference a tenants and residents association can make. So I want to say a big thank you to you for sharing that with us. And we will be coming back to you for some top tips, I think, on running tenants associations and keeping them active, because that's fantastic. If anyone's got any questions for David, do pop them in the chat and we will get them to David at a later date and get a response to you. But I would just like to say a really big thank you, David, for that and for keeping to time as well. So that is excellent on both fronts. Thank you again. And we will hopefully see you again very soon. Thank you. Okay, folks, we are moving on now to our next speakers, and I am delighted to welcome Jerry and Nancy. I've heard all about what they've been doing in Richmond upon Thames, and I think it's a fantastic project they're involved in, the community ambassadors. So I'm going to ask Jerry and Nancy to unmute themselves and say hello and tell you all about their wonderful project that they're involved with down there in beautiful Richmond. So over to yourselves, Nancy and Jerry.
Thank you. Yep, I've been involved in the Community Ambassadors in Richmond since its conception, and I think it's been running about 4 years properly now, and we're starting to see some really big improvements. Like David, we've had our issues and we've struggled, but I think the strength of community ambassadors is that we are there to support each other. So there isn't an issue that you can come across, or there isn't a event that you can put on that you won't get support. So I'd like to introduce Nancy to you now, who's going to tell you a bit about how we view our role.
Yeah, hi there, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
We can, yep.
Lovely. Yeah, I think that David basically said half our role, actually. But yeah, in terms of the Community Ambassador project that is operating in Richmond, where we're from in London, it's basically a community ambassador is an individual who serves as a liaison between the community and organisations, government and other bodies. And specifically in Richmond, a community ambassador is a tenant or leaseholder of a social housing landlord. What we do, well, first and foremost, we work within our local communities, connecting and signposting members of our community, bringing positive and social and physical changes to our local environments. The role's about bringing change to our local communities are not necessarily about getting involved in personal issues or cases, but situations that affect the community at large. We tend to attend estate inspections, which allow us to engage with tenants and issues that affect them and liaise with landlords on resolving those issues. A big part of our work, obviously, is liaising with social housing landlords in our borough of Richmond, which include Richmond Housing Partnership, RHP, Thames Valley Metropolitan Housing, MTVH, PA Housing and L&Q Housing. And of course, we liaise with Richmond Council, the point being to put tenants' voices within the different levels of the structures of these organisations, in line with the objective of the regulator of social housing, working with local charities and organisations as well. The community ambassadors are tenants and come from, you know, a diverse background. Anybody can be a community ambassador. It's very inclusive. Everyone has something to offer, and we provide training for people that are interested in becoming a community ambassador. So I'll let Jerry go into a bit more of a deep dive. That was just the general overview.
Yeah, like David said, you can have problems and you can face problems and you can face apathy. But the beauty of working as a group of community ambassadors, it strengthens your tenants association and you have access to other people's skills. Like we have people that are accountants, we have people that have got all different kinds of training that we can help plug gaps with our partnerships, with charities, with the housing associations, with the council. And the more people that come together, I found, the more that we're able to achieve. You can then start to set goals with the people that you know and raise the same issues in different areas. And so the voice becomes stronger. And I think that's one of the best things that we found. Like David, I started a community, a residents association here where I live, basically for the same issues, ASB, drug use, disrepair. And it was a little bit easier for me because I had engaged with them, with the tenants earlier. There's 180 flats here, because we were going to have the top of our garden cut off. And so I got various petitions and spoke at council, so not to get our garden cut off. And in the end, we won. And it's like these small victories, David, like David said, that make a whole great difference. It brings your community together, and then people aren't frightened to say anymore what's happening. And it may be done very quietly behind closed doors, but you can push to make a change, and you can feel a change in the whole of the atmosphere on the estate. Instead of living in fear from 5 or 6 residents, you can just build something lovely. We've had a variety of events. We had our launch on the 12th of September. We also had a lovely Halloween event for the children. And it's nice to bring everyone together so they can talk, so they know their neighbours, because being on such a big estate doesn't necessarily mean that you know who lives in the next block along or around the corner. You'll probably know the disruptive ones, but you won't get to meet the teachers, the businessmen, the architects. And then the children come in and make it much better. What do you think, Nancy?
Yeah, no, I second that. And also with the community ambassadors, because of our role, we're usually invited to become members of other organizations, like some of us are trustees. And like Jerry said earlier, when you have that crossover, you can influence, you know, your social landlord and also do more for your community because of the different areas that you work within that are connected. For example, some of our community ambassadors were invited to, to a consultation on a new decent home standard from, the government of housing and local communities. And, that's about influencing government policy. And, Jerry and I, for example, are going to be doing a council meeting to, scrutinise our landlord on scrutiny and other issues, tenant scrutiny and other issues. So again, it's about the tenant's voice being embedded in all these areas that actually, are the voice of, the community and, do bring about change. So.
Brilliant. Yeah, and I think, it's really important to hear there that it's obviously a very community estate-based role, but obviously you're getting involved in the wider housing world, as well, as you said, with the consultation and sort of growing into different areas as well. I think it'd be, while we've got you, what drew you to the role? If somebody was thinking of setting this up, what should they say to somebody to make them join? What did it for you when you saw that? So first to Jerry and then to Nancy. Why did you decide to become an ambassador?
I wanted to make a difference, and the whole thing about having the garden cut off and bringing the road closer to the estate, and the children that had got asthma and how it would affect them, it really brought out the passionate fighting side of me. So I wanted to do something. I wanted to make a difference, and there wasn't anything that was going to stop me. And then I found the community ambassadors, and there is just such a great, vast amount of things that you can do to make such a difference. And going around the estate, you meet people, you meet old people that might be a bit isolated, so you can then signpost them to go to like the local community centre, and then you watch them, they go along, they're a bit nervous at the first time, but then they're back every week having soup and a roll. And so, you're taking away the isolation and you're giving them support. And we founded a WhatsApp group that now, if there's issues on the estate, a couple of weeks ago, there was a pipe that was leaking like a fountain. And like everybody was on the WhatsApp group. Has anybody reported this? What's going on? So you're not just dealing with that block issue anymore. The whole estate is getting involved and connecting to RHP, the council, what's going on. So you're able to put more pressure upon them.
Brilliant. And Nancy, anything from you in terms of why you got involved?
Yeah, I got involved specifically because I was really upset about disrepaired, and even more specifically how disrepaired affected people with disabilities, long-term disrepaired, and how the our landlord wasn't carrying out their duties and obligations. And so that made me really passionate and upset. But that was the fire, to think about doing something about it. And I went to a hustings, how I got involved with the community ambassador team. I went to a hustings to basically hold the councillors to account. And at that hustings, I happened to meet Catherine Pickering. You'll know Catherine. Directly, one of the community heroes and a community ambassador. And she was asking a question at the hustings, and I was thinking, is she a member of a tenants association? So I went up to her after the hustings and asked her what did she do, and she told me about the community ambassador scheme. And so I thought, oh, I'd love to be part of that. So she, gave me the details and everything. And here we go.
That's great to hear. And yeah, just a couple of people asking about the setup. It's funded by the council in London Borough of Richmond upon Thames. So the project's funded by them, but it has links to the housing association. So Richmond don't own any council housing. They work and they have sort of good relations with the local housing associations who they've brought together under this umbrella. Is that right? I think I've kind of summarised that. Okay.
the signatories to an agreement called SHIP, the Social Housing Improvement Plan. So the CAP project, along with the council and the 4 landlords, have made an agreement to improve, you know, the local area, and we as community ambassadors are all part of it as well. So yeah.
And as part of the agreement is why the housing associations come to council, and then a couple of the community ambassadors from their housing association are able to question their report along with the councillors.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
nice.
Okay, fantastic. I'm sorry we've kind of run out of time again. There's a couple of questions we haven't got to, but I will pass them on and hopefully you can do a written response to those questions. But again, just want to say a big thank you to you both, to you know, and to all the community ambassadors for the great work that you're doing in Richmond. And thank you for sharing your experiences and stories with us today, Jerry and Nancy. Thanks. Brilliant. Okay, another uplifting story. We move on though. We have now Citizen, and I think it's Joan who's going to be joining us. Joan Allen from Citizen, who's going to give us a bit of a general view, I think, of what they're doing there and some of the good stuff. So is Joan with us?
I am.
Hello, Joan. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm okay. I'm really buzzing off of everyone's energy. I really feel, I mean, I think we've all got this passion where we all started and something sparks you off. And there you go, you know, you set on the road to involvement to try and make that change, to try and make that difference. And I think for me, mine started pretty young, actually. I was about 14 when I started, and I was living in a community where, I don't know, I noted some difference. I noted some difference in treatment in people of color, and that was why I went. My parents' home, I don't know, some of us on the call might be familiar with the old tin baths and the outside toilet and the paraffin heaters. Well, when I was a kid growing up, that's what we had in our properties. And when I visited my neighbors, friends, you know, my friends to play in their homes or whatever, I noticed that their properties were modernized and they had centrally heated properties and so on. And I said to my parents, how come they have got that and we've got this? My parents said, well, it is what it is. I noted that it was people of color that didn't have that. My parents were reluctant to ask the question because they felt maybe if they make waves, they might lose their home. So they just put up with it. But I said to my father, no, let's go to a council meeting and let's see if we can make some changes. My father reluctantly agreed for me to go along. We went along, I challenged them, and they actually said they didn't realize that there were properties that were not upgraded. They didn't even know, they said. Anyway, we successfully challenged it. Then we got the heating and it was lovely. And then when I became a tenant in my own right, I thought, Tenants and Residents Association, it's got to be, because that's got to be the voice of the local people. So I was a founder member of the Broadwater Farm Tenants and Residents Association, and that was just before the riots and so on. So we kind of brought the community together. It was lovely. That old time where you could leave your front door open and you felt really safe. Those days are gone, I know, but that brought the community together. But that set me on the road really to getting involved. And I developed confidence as the years went on to challenge. Got called all sorts of names: troublemaker, angry black woman, nuisance, and everything. But I didn't let that deter me. I kept on, and where something wasn't right, like the repairs weren't done, or they made a promise to do something, the landlord, and they didn't do it, I would pursue it via the Tenants and Residents Association until we got it done. And then I was fortunate enough to move into the West Midlands, into Coventry, and immediately I started working with the landlord again. Because people were saying when I moved in, I think it was 2 weeks after I moved in, we're not happy with this. He goes, well, what are you doing about it? Oh, nothing. I goes, well, you could just going to sit and moan, you know, let's come together as a group. Let's come together as residents and see what we can do. And I found it was received really well. The landlord at the time said, well, yeah, nobody's ever said anything to us. So they started working with us and getting things improved. And then we became Citizen. And I don't know, I mean, I shouldn't be boastful, but I am. I have to. I am because Citizen has worked with the customers that they have to make sure that they don't just hear what they're saying. They actually listen. They actually listen. I mean, there's a real difference that you can hear what people are saying, but you know, you just write it down and say, okay, I heard you, but then listen and do something about it. And I like the fact that they actually take on board what we say via different groups that we have. We have customer assurance, we have scrutiny panels, we have repairs panels, and they hear the voice of the customer and try and make things happen. Where it can't happen, I mean, I always say to my customer colleagues, be realistic with your ambitions, because some things can happen and some things can't happen. Some can happen today and some can't happen today. So you have to kind of work with the landlord so that they work within the given budget and so on to do what we can do when we can do it. So that works really, really well. But they actually listen and they actually try to do what they can when they can. And I love the fact that also they've got different groups that everybody, whatever level you're at, whatever you feel you can input, you get an opportunity to input, because some people can go to meetings and sit and talk to local councillors. Some people can't. Some people would rather not. Some people would rather fill a survey out or have a conversation with their housing manager or whatever. That I love, because they actually give everybody, whatever level they're at, an opportunity to engage and to put forward a suggestion or a comment, or to say how they feel about the service that they are being offered. You know, it's good business sense. And this is one of the things that I've always said to the landlords that I've encountered. It's good business sense to make sure your customers are happy. If you make sure your customers are happy, they stay with you for a long time, and they also make sure that they look after the properties. So it's for you, it's beneficial, it saves you money on repairs and so on. The complaints are hopefully very, very low, which ours, we're getting there with ours. We've come a long way, but we are definitely getting there. But you know, they don't fob you off. They actually try to address what they can, and if they can't, they speak to you. If they get it wrong, they put their hands up. I can work with that. I can work with that. When a landlord does that, I think it shows that they value you. I feel they value the fact that, you know, our kind of strapline is a foundation. You know, a foundation for life. I find that that's my home. It is my foundation for life. And I think the landlord needs to actually respect that. And I'm so fortunate. And as I say, to the brink of boastfulness, that my landlord does. And I'm so, so happy. They don't realize, and I've said it before, they haven't actually given me a home. They've given me a life, because I think if I didn't actually have the home that I feel safe, I feel proud of it, I feel happy, and I feel that my landlord value me and feel that I'm of worth, I would be miserable. And I dare say that there's a lot of people where they have landlords that perhaps don't listen and they don't recognize the elements of what would make a customer happy. And I would just encourage all landlords to just understand that it's good business sense to hear the voice of the customers, give customers different ways to input. Do you know what I mean? And your customers will then be the eyes and ears of the community. Make sure the property, if there's anything wrong, they report it, you know, immediately, and they'd be prepared to work with you because they get something back. They get something back. So as I said, I'm very, very lucky, and I've been involved. And when David was talking, I was trying to figure out how long I've been involved. It's about 53 years.
Wow.
I mean, 50, you can just see I'm a bit grey, but I'm and it's not because of my involvement. It's an absolute pleasure when you get the landlord, thank you very much, when you get a landlord that listens to you and actually tries to work with you to do what they need to make you happy in your home. And my landlord, unfortunately, did all of that before the regulators told them to do it. They were already doing it. And that was because of the input given by those of us who are involved, you know, in different ways. They actually ensured that customers had different ways to be involved. So that was the reason why they managed to achieve what they needed to before the regulators came in. And then we were able to say, yeah, we're doing it already. We're doing it already. Do you know what I mean? So it's good business sense. And as I say, for the customer to feel the sense of value and worth, and that they really matter to their landlord. So I would say thumbs up to my landlord for giving people, and I would ask people to follow their example and make sure everyone can get involved. I'm a very, very happy customer. That's it for me.
Wow, that is fantastic, Joan. What an absolutely wonderful presentation. I think we all kind of, really sort of felt a lot of love for you in terms of your journey that you've been on, and to still be doing what you're doing, as you say, 50 years later, but also, to have that insight as well and really sell the sort of engagement positives. I think I need to bottle you and take you with me on journeys around the country, because I think you've summed it up so well. Lots and lots of positive comments as well in the chat, and I think you're right. That common sense. It's good business, isn't it? Absolutely, it's good business, and it has all those other wonderful knock-on effects as well. So, Joan, I will be in touch with you most definitely, because I think you've got something there that we can absolutely amplify across the country, a real sort of positive story. So thank you ever so much for sharing.
Thank you. I hope I didn't come over too boastful. I'm sorry if I did. I apologize.
Absolutely not. I think fair play to you. You've got lots to be boastful about, and I think, you've got to, we see landlords coming in for a lot of criticism, and rightly so. But when landlords get it right, it's wonderful to hear residents saying that that's the case, and you can work with them on various things if they need to be fixed. So that's music to our ears. So thank you ever so much, Joan. Loved listening to that. Brilliant. Okay. Any questions for Joan? Please do pop them in the chat, and we will get them to Joan. But yeah, big thank you to her for coming along today. That's brilliant. Okay, we move on, folks. I did tell you it was rapid, but I think it's good because we're hearing some wonderful stories from around the country as well. We've been all over the place. Citizen is Midlands, I think, isn't it? Midlands based, Joan. Is that right? Yes. So we are now going to take a bit of a tour, I think, down to Gloucester, I do believe, Gloucester City Homes. I think we've got Mandy with us. Mandy, are you
Hello.
there? Hello?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm right
lovely
here.
to see you, Mandy. Thank you for joining us today. I know there's some fantastic stuff going off at Gloucester, so I hope you're going to be able to share that with us. So over to yourself when you're ready.
Well, I thought it would be exciting if I delivered this from out in the community. So I so I braved the rain, and I'm coming from the heart of Gloucester. I'm regretting it slightly because we now have I've had the police already outside, and I've had somebody come in to deliver some soup this morning, so that's come in, and I've now got drilling. So apologies if you can hear drilling in the pavement outside. I've had to put my headphones on. I wasn't going to do that, but because I couldn't hear what anybody was saying. Well, I mean, it really thrilling to hear those those few people. I'm really inspired. So the reason that I believe I was invited to come along and speak today was because I took part in one of the TPAS spotlights very recently, and we're very proud to do that. And so it's really exciting to get a chance to just come and update a little bit on some of the things that have moved on since that spotlight went on the live on the website. I hope you've all read it, and if not, you can all rush off and read it later. So, as I said, I wanted to come from the heart of the community today, and I'm really happy to. So earlier in the year, if you'd have asked me, I'd have said we've got 4 buildings that GCH has. Can you all hear me? Because I've just had a message that my internet is unstable. Am I all right?
It just dropped out and then it came back again. So fingers crossed, Mandy.
Okay, sorry. That's typical, isn't it? It's been absolutely fine all morning. And another risk, I guess, of coming from out in the wild and not sitting at home on my comfy Wi-Fi. So yeah, we had 4 community spaces that GCH provided for a variety of different groups and uses. They covered all sorts of exciting after-school clubs and art and different food distribution methods, that kind of thing. But while I was writing that, I'd been working on a project to get the place where I'm sitting now, which is called the Westgate Community Corner, up and running as a new community pantry in the heart of Westgate, which is quite central to Gloucester. It's not one of our sort of out on the outskirts estates. It's right in the middle. It was really, really hard work to get this up and running. And that, I guess, is why I was kind of excited to come out and be here. You can see in the background, I've got a little bit of tea and coffee. And so I really am here. And at any moment, somebody could knock on the door and want to come in. We are closed today. It's open 4 days a week, and it's run by a partner. So I'm not in here every day running and distributing food. So my role is community engagement, community investment and engagement lead at GCH. So I spend an awful lot of time building partners. Somebody said something about the sweets. Yes, that's the marshmallows for the hot chocolate. You've got everything here. So I spend a lot of time building partnerships. And one of the partnerships that I've really, I hope, strengthened this year is with an organisation called Community Roots CIC, and they were already embedded up in another area, and we're running a building very successfully, which was offering all sorts of support to our tenants and customers elsewhere in Gloucester. So I was really keen to see what they could do with this space. So I talked to GCH and I had to do quite a lot of persuasion. And I think that's the other part of my role. So it's the partnerships out in the community, but also that sort of linking the community in and those community needs and things that I'm seeing and being asked for and about, having to go back to GCH and saying, look, this is what our tenants are telling us. How can we support them to make this happen? So our local residents group in this area, it's interesting actually, David mentioned that the pandemic put paid to an awful lot of residents groups, but actually in this area, the residents group was kind of it kind of reignited it, I think. So it gone very quiet and a little bit stale, like some residents groups do when they've been going on for a long time. Needed a bit of a change, and it needed reigniting. And us coming in and supporting the community during COVID, I think that really increased our relationship with our residents. And then out of that, we got a lovely new revitalized community group. And they had spotted this empty shop, and it had been sat here since the pandemic, since we were all in lockdown. So it was then my job to go back to GCH and persuade them to let us have yet another space. It's taken a really long time. And I think one of my top tips was about time. Just because something doesn't happen immediately, I really think don't give up. Just keep plugging on, keep asking, keep saying this is a need, this is something that we would like to do. And eventually the wish came true. The right partner was in place at the right time. We worked with the residents group to work out what it was that they felt would be useful in the area, and we have now a new community pantry. We have 5 pantries in Gloucester, but this one is unique in that it's run on a slightly different model. It hopefully will be completely sustainable and won't need to constantly be fighting for funding all the time. So it's a really difficult balance, as I'm sure you know. You can give away free food for a short time, but you can't sustain it. You've got to find a way of making the project work. So this works on a membership model, and people do pay for the food, but it's very, very low priced, and hopefully it will continue to develop. We also have lots of other partners coming in to give advice and guidance while the shop's open. We have the reason people were delivering soup is because we've got a soup and coffee and tea coffee morning on a Monday. So there's so much going on. It's really exciting. I don't think I really need to go on and on. You can hear I'm really proud of this, and I think it's an exciting development. Yeah, and I think I'm finishing early, aren't I, Louise?
You are, but that's okay.
Hooray!
Questions that people have got, and one's just come in. Do you have any allotment to use in the area? Is there any sort of
Actually,
food at all,
yeah,
Mandy?
yeah. And I should have mentioned them. I mean, there are so many other partners involved. I mentioned Community Roots. The lady that just dropped off the soup was from Project Grow, which is a local organization who are really closely tied in with Community Roots, and they have lots of allotments and they will be growing vegetables. We have Gloucester Soup, which is a project. Oh, they're all tied in together. It's a project that is City Council and Project Grow, where we're taking locally grown vegetables, making them into soup, and then they will be low cost. So that's what we'll be serving on Mondays. So yes, we
Brilliant.
do.
And then just someone asking about the location. I think you are pretty much in the town centre, aren't you, with West?
Yeah. So there's 4 gate streets in Gloucester, and we're at the end of Westgate. So I mean, I suppose, yeah, we're pretty central, but we're not right in the middle on the cross of the streets, if you see what I mean, if you know Gloucester.
Yes, I do. I know it quite well, actually. I don't know about anybody else, but it's a lovely place. I just wanted to ask you about volunteers, Mandy. Do you find, you've got lots of the community volunteering to help out with these things, or is it something that's more led by staff, or is it a bit of a mix?
It's a mix. It's really early days at the moment. We only opened the pantry at the end of October, so it's not even been open a month yet. We already have a volunteer who's come across with Community Roots because they were already working with her in another location. So she's coming. Just the most amazing cook and just cooks cakes and soups and all sorts of things. So she's really helpful. But we're also hoping that some of our residents groups and other members of groups will come in. That will be something we'll be offering. Well, I say it'll be Community Roots. We'll be offering all sorts of training opportunities and different ways to get involved at different levels.
Brilliant. So you've got some big plans, I guess, for next year. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. But it will all be led by what we feel is happening in the community and what the residents and the tenants are telling us.
Just a question about the ownership of the shop. Is it owned by Gloucester City Homes,
Yeah.
or do they support the rent?
Yeah, no, so it's owned by GCH. We've got a 2-year contract at the moment, lease for with 0 rent. So one of the reasons that I'm so proud of the fact that we still have any spaces at all is because of the financial climate. It is really difficult for housing associations at the moment. So we have had to look at every penny and make sure that everything. In the old days, people would just say, oh, could we just use that empty shop for a couple of months? And we'd go, yeah, sure, off you go, These days, we know that we all have to be so much more careful and justify and make a business case for every project and every idea that we come up with. So I am really proud that we've still got the 4 and now we've increased it to another one. So big thanks really to the GCH management for listening to our customers and to our communities.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mandy. Then question about local schools. Do they get involved at all in this particular project?
So not this project, actually. It's interesting that this area, it has very few young families. So it all depends on the demographic. We're really focused on single people and older people in this area.
Perfect. And then question from Katrina. I'm not sure I've kind of totally got this, but it's about contracts. Is that in terms of the lease, Katrina? If you can give me a thumbs up. Or if you're really super speedy, I can ask you to unmute yourself and ask the question. I can see you now, Katrina. Go for it. Be super speedy for me.
Yeah, sorry. It's just in the volunteer groups that we're on, we have to sign contracts and T's and C's and stuff. So it's in references with that. That's all I was asking it for.
Good question. Yes.
So we're talking about the actual volunteers.
Yeah. Do you have volunteer agreements or contracts?
Yeah. So luckily, because it would not be my forte, I don't need to do that because I've chosen the right partner. And the Community Roots are very skilled in, making sure that all the paperwork is up together. So they've all the volunteer agreements and managing those volunteers, because you can't just, you know, take volunteers for granted. They need to know what they're expected to do and look after their health and safety and everything. So all that paperwork is all handled by my amazing partner, Deb, from Community Roots. And the other thing that she does, and I'm looking at a wall covered in paperwork, she makes sure that everybody's got their food hygiene, that we've got 5 stars in the window from the City Council. So all our hygiene is up together as well, because that's something that, you know, would take, I would be doing a full-time job just down here if I was actually having to deliver it. So I think that, you know, my message today would be about working with community partners, choosing the right ones, and then building those relationships. So, you know, it's a bit like a jigsaw, isn't it? You've got to have the right partner and the right assets in the community, and then the support of whoever that, so in this case, a housing association, to allow that to kind of go ahead. So yeah,
I think that sums it up really, really well. That bits of jigsaw coming together, which have done in your case perfectly. And
thank
we
goodness.
wish you all the luck in the world for the project going forward, Mandy, and hope to hear a bit more about it, and let us know how you get on. But thank you for going out into the community and coming live from the community, and you've not been disturbed either. So thank you ever so much for that, Mandy. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Louise.
Okay, folks, we are now going to move on to our next speakers. And again, really pleased that we've got these people with us today. I do know a little bit about this already, and it's a fantastic bit of work. So welcome to Ashfield Council. I think we've got Jane and Lindsay, who are going to tell us a little bit about their recent scrutiny report. So if you want to unmute yourself, Jane and Lindsay, and say hello, and over to yourselves. Okay, I don't know if they're just on mute or whether they've not managed to get to us. I'll get Annie to check the list of attendees.
They are here. We're just trying to.
Here. Yes, yes. Sorry, Julie, I didn't see you. I've got that many people on my screen. Sorry, Julie. When you're ready, over to yourselves then. No worries.
Yeah, we're just being technical.
I know that feeling, yes. Hopefully the technology won't let you down. It's always a worry, isn't it? Yeah, I'm still not convinced technology is going to run the world. There's just far too many problems and issues, even on Zoom. Do you want us to come back to you, Julie? Would that be better, or do you want to see if you can still sort of persevere with it? Can you hear me at all, Julie? Okay. That's not looking
I'm here.
great.
I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah.
Right. So they're going to talk without their slides, Louise.
Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry. We can share the slides with people if need be. So yeah, just talk us through it. That'd be wonderful.
Can you hear them and see them?
We can't see any slides, I'm afraid, or yourselves, but we can certainly hear you okay.
Hello. Okay. Well, we'll progress then. As I speak, Ashfield's Tenant Scrutiny Panel has completed only the one scrutiny review. Almost two, but as yet only one. So we feel genuinely honoured to be invited here to speak today. Tenant scrutiny has existed nationally since 2019, following the National Housing Federation's Together with Tenants initiative. But it only truly reached sleepy old Ashfield with the appointment of a tenant engagement officer. After seeking out tenants willing to take on the responsibilities involved, the scrutiny panel came into being and held its first meeting in 2024. Even though we have only known each other for about a year, I believe we've made considerable progress as a group in that short time. Recruitment is ongoing, and a lot of work goes into making sure that people's temperaments, skills, and qualities fit the needs of the panel. So let me now introduce you to some of our panel members.
Oh, it's still Tony, isn't it? Sorry.
Sorry, this is me. I'm Tony. I'm retired now, but I previously worked as an internal auditor and was the Midlands Region Trades Union representative for British Rail. My perception of scrutiny panel is simple. It's about improving the services we receive whilst also ensuring that our landlord delivers them efficiently and cost effectively. The skills I bring come from my career and union work, asking the right questions, getting the right answers, using my life experience to benefit the task at hand, whilst also respecting the experiences of others through teamwork. I came into social housing comparatively recently after the breakup of my third marriage, so my knowledge of rented accommodation is probably second to my knowledge of wedding cake.
I'm Lindsay and I've lived in Ashfield since I was about 21. I worked as an office manager in a care home until I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I left work due to ill health, but joining the scrutiny panel has given me a new focus. It's rewarding to feel that I can make a difference, share ideas with others and still contribute to my community. My niece lives in one of the new builds, so I've seen the difference it can make.
Hi, I'm Jane. I began my working life as a cook and loved that role, but I soon realised my real strength lay in caring for people and that I could offer better care than I often saw being delivered. That led me to join the ambulance service, a role I was very proud to hold. I later moved to a private ambulance company and trained as an ambulance technician, although I didn't pass my paramedics papers at the time. I didn't let that stop me from finding another way to make a difference. I joined a nursing agency that specialised in supporting care homes on the brink of closure. My job was to assess what was going wrong and teach staff how to care properly. It was challenging but rewarding work. I later became head of care and went on to manage 2 homes, also serving as team leader and deputy manager. Towards the end of my career, I returned to cooking, the role where it all began, and I carried on those same values with me till I retired. All these experiences give me an insight into the involvement of the council. I may have retired from direct care, but I now feel I can still care just for a greater number of people. I believe everyone deserves a good home, and that's what draws me to scrutiny in areas like voids and lettings and new builds. My daughter even lives in one of the first new homes built under the council's programme. So I've seen firsthand a positive difference a good home can make.
At our first meeting, we were warmly welcomed, and while tea and biscuits may sound trivial, nothing gets people more involved than a cuppa and a few chocolate biscuits before getting down to business. And trust me, our tenant engagement officer gets a load of grief when drinks and biscuits are not forthcoming. The council are fully supportive of our investigations. The senior officer responsible for the service area we are scrutinising attends our initial meeting, explains how the department works and answers any of our questions. That really helps us define the scope of our projects and gives us confidence that our work does matter. They also allocate an officer to support the investigation so that we have someone on hand to answer any questions or to move things along. That first meeting perfectly summed up what involvement means to me. People coming together for a shared purpose. In our case, that purpose is improving services for both councils and its tenants. We have continued to develop as a team, each with our own responsibilities, each completing our own tasks effectively and on time. Over time, we've become friends as well as colleagues, and we even meet up socially for coffee as well as formal meetings.
One of our first decisions was whether we needed a panel chair. We decided that, as we were already working well together, we would continue as equals, giving everyone an equal opportunity to speak, equal respect, and equal responsibility. It's important to remember that whilst this works for us, it might not work for everyone. There's no one size fits all to scrutiny. That's not to say we always agree. We have honest discussions and make decisions democratically. If a member feels strongly opposed to something, they can choose to disassociate themselves from that specific action. For example, as part of our lettings investigation, the panel wanted to research what the council's responsibilities were towards housing asylum seekers and refugees, with particular reference to where these people fit into waiting lists. I had concerns about the scrutiny questions we raised around asylum seekers. I was worried that less scrupulous people might twist or use our research for political gain, so I chose to step back from that particular section. However, thanks to braver hearts than mine, those questions were asked, and that one topic gave us a platform at the TPAS conference recently and possibly led to our invitation to speak here today. At the very least, it has given us an opportunity via our final report to tell residents the truth about this emotive issue and to promote understanding over speculation. It has also added additional depth to our investigation into lettings processes. No spoilers, though. You will have to read our final report with the details.
We've probably been lucky to gel so easily as a group, but there's also been a lot of hard work, commitment and laughter that got us here. And as he's with us today, I would now like to invite Councillor Andy Meakin to share his perspective of tenants' engagement in Ashfield.
Good afternoon. I'm Councillor Andy Meakin, Executive Lead Member for Social Housing and Assets at Ashfield District Council. Tenant involvement, particularly through our scrutiny panel, is an invaluable part of how we improve services. It gives us direct insight how tenants feel about living in our properties and help shape the decisions we make. I make it a priority to attend as many meetings as I can. Hearing from tenants directly is incredibly powerful. Their honesty, constructive, and not afraid to tell us when you get something wrong, a kind of feedback is essential. I'm proud of the work our involved tenants do. They volunteer their time to help us make things better, and their contributions are making a real difference. I encourage all elected members to spend time with their authorities to involve tenants. It's a rewarding experience and vital for our social housing provider that wants to deliver meaningful improvements.
If there's any advice we can offer about involvement, it's this: make it inclusive.
Work together as a team, include everyone who has an interest in this subject and treat everyone with equal respect and give everyone an equal voice.
And above all, remember, consultation works better than confrontation. Thank you for listening. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much to Ashfield District Council. What a fantastic team, and great to have the councillor with us as well. So I would love to open it up to questions, and some have already come in, but we're so tight on time that unfortunately I'm not going to be able to do that at this point. But what I will do is forward the questions on to Ashfield and ask them to give us a written response. And get those back out to people who have asked the questions today on the session. So again, a big thank you to Ashfield. Again, fantastic stuff that they're doing. That scrutiny report is definitely worth a look, and we will make sure we try and circulate that as well. So thank you to the team, and I love the background as well, and the fact you all fantastic. So again, big thank you, and well done to all of you for the fantastic work, and well done to the council for supporting engagement as well. I think that's excellent to see. Okay, folks, I am so sorry. I feel like I'm being the sort of hard taskmaster here, having to move things on, but we have still got quite a few people to get through before we finish at 1. So I have to do what I have to do, I'm afraid. So next up, I am delighted to welcome Star Housing, and I think we've got Emma, Lynn and Nicola who are going to talk a little bit about what they've been doing and some fantastic work at Star Housing. So if you want to unmute yourselves and say hello, and then it's over to you to give your presentation.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Emma.
Hello, you okay?
Good, thank you. Yeah.
So I'm Emma Jones. I'm our customer engagement manager at Star Housing, but I'm going to take a bit of a backseat from this, and Nikki and Lynn are going to take the lead on giving an update. But if there's any questions that Nikki or Lynn need some help with, then I'll join in then.
Okay,
Over to
I'm
you,
going
Nikki.
to hand straight over to Lynn first because she's got a little bit to say first. Is she here?
Not seeing a Nikki, but again, I've got people on my screen, so I don't know whether I've just missed it. Give her another shout out. Lindsay, are you?
Lynn.
Lynn, sorry.
If not, Nikki, if you want to
Oh,
start,
yeah,
I'll message Lynn.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I have done a little speech because I'm not very good at blurbing out everything that I want to say. So it is my privilege to share my experience on the scrutiny panel. So I joined the panel in December last year following an invitation that got extended to my husband because he's on the top of the tenancy. I'm the second person, and he's not as. I was going to put this in my words because I'm from Wolverhampton, but then I asked ChatGPT to tell me a little bit more conservative. So he's a little bit more reserved than me. My choice of words was I'm a little bit more gobby. So he had the invitation, he didn't want to take it, so I decided to step forward and do it myself. So that was on my first meeting was on the 4th of December last year, and on the 3rd of February this year I got elected as the chairperson. So that probably tells you how gobby I am. So by the time I joined, they'd already done one review on repairs. So I actually started at the start of their second review, and this was on kitchens and bathrooms. So I'd just like to share what we did. So our initial task was to evaluate the kitchens and bathrooms provided by Star Housing and how these essential facilities are supplied to our tenants. This review involved a comprehensive process. We examined everything from the suppliers of the kitchens to the fitters, to the policies they've got in place, as well as the information that they provide in the form of an information pack to the tenants. Our methods of review included site visits to void properties where we could observe what needed replacing and the standards of finishes on completed properties. Speaking with relevant staff members within Star to understand how everything worked operationally and what they felt would work better. We sent out surveys to our tenants, asking for their views on this particular service. Through our thorough investigation, we collated lots of evidence and identified several areas that could do with some improvement. In total, we made 7 recommendations, and I'm pleased to say that they accepted 11 of the recommendations, and the 12th one, they didn't outright object to it. They just said they needed to work out a way that they maybe could do that in the future. One notable outcome of this review is that Star Housing then decided to part ways with the company that was responsible for fitting the bathrooms and kitchens. And this decision was made because the fitters were unable to adapt to the changes that were required to meet the high standards set out by Star Housing and the scrutiny panel. This shift is an important step towards Star Housing continuing to provide the best services possible to its residents. We are now starting reviewing our communal areas, so the same practice will be put forward to that, and we've already been out and done site visits on the communal areas. If I could offer one piece of advice to any scrutiny panel, it would be approach the review with a collaborative mindset. It is important to enter this situation with a spirit of partnership and assistance rather than confrontation. The goal of the scrutiny panel is not to criticise just for the sake of criticising, but to work together to identify the improvements needed. Building a healthy, respectful relationship with the staff you are reviewing is essential for creating meaningful change. Approaching the approaching the process with a "we're here to help" attitude fosters an environment where everyone feels supported rather than scrutinised. And if I put that in Wolverhampton language, you would not have understood what I'm saying. So, thank you very much for listening. Is Lynn on?
She's having trouble with the link, so I have just resent the link, so she may just pop up. But in the meantime, I thought it might be useful to kind of share some of the outcomes from it. So from STAR's point of view, our executive management team really do see the value in the scrutiny panel and the work that they do, and I think that was evident from our recent AGM, which Louise attended to speak in, and Nikki's shaking her head because we made her get up on stage to get a certificate, so that's why she's shaking her head. But it
And
did.
Louise was sat right next to me and kept it quiet.
But it yeah, it really did come across kind of how much the work of the panel is valued. And one of the things that we shared was so Nikki mentioned that the first review that she worked on was the kitchens and bathrooms. Prior to that, and this is the part that Lynn was going to talk about, but the scrutiny panel also did a piece of work on our repairs service, and from that there were 29 actions. So we've done an action plan which then gets followed up by me as the customer engagement manager. I will meet with the head of service quarterly just to go through each of the actions to make sure that we're on track, and then we'll feed back to the scrutiny panel at a 6-month and 12-month basis. From the 29 actions from the repairs review, we've completed 23, and we're on target for the other 6. But what we were able to see is that with the tenant satisfaction measures that came in with our results from 23-24, the satisfaction in the repair service sat at 80%. Which is fantastic. But then following the review of the scrutiny panel, the next set of satisfaction measures that we did, it rose to 85%. And that is down to the work that the scrutiny panel have done with us and us ensuring that we're embedding their recommendations. So I don't know if Lynn.
I don't know whether that was in the waiting room. I'm not sure whether that is Lynn or not.
I can bring up what she said.
I needed to sort of be succinct, but we'd love to hear from her if she is here with us. I don't know if you just joined us, Lynn from Star.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
yay!
Yes.
God, blimey. Do I hate technology?
Well done, Lynn. Well done for persevering.
I thought you
I'll
was
never
leaving me
give
to
up.
go it alone.
Yeah, never give up. Yeah.
I'll put myself on mute again, and Lynn, if you could just do your introduction.
Yeah, fine. I'm Lynn Fonseca. I'm from Bridgnorth. I joined the scrutiny panel on its initial setup procedure 2 years ago, I believe it was, 2023. We were only a team of 5 to begin with. I responded because I'd seen an advert on the poster in our communal room inviting people who had an interest. For me, it was purely to find something to do in my retirement years. And I've thoroughly enjoyed my time. Our first scrutiny panel was based on day-to-day repairs within Star Housing. It was extremely informative, and Star themselves, especially Emma, were very forthcoming with their mentoring, their help, assistance, guidance, etc., etc. We did a lot of research online, looking at other housing associations across the country, and picked up quite a few good pointers from them. We then spoke to the repairs manager and asked about his processes, etc. And some things that we had come across as tenants personally, but not based on our personal experience, if you know what I mean. You didn't want your own thing solved. And also listening to neighbours where they feel that Star let them down. One of the main things we got and have since is communication. It's a big, big part between Star and other housing associations and the tenant. So we did repairs manager. We also went into the contact centre and observed how their operatives answered the calls, how they were logged, and the progress following on from that call. You know, what type of call was it? How long would it take for that repair to be sorted out? And then to the customer satisfaction at the end of the job through, I think it's Acuity that we use at the moment. So they do a phone call or a text, etc. How was the service that you received? Which is all good. It's all extremely good. We then finalised that with putting a presentation to the senior management board of our recommendations. Off the top of my head, I can't remember how many recommendations we put, but it was a lot. And they were all took on board. And we've since had a 6-month review and just recently had a 12-month review where I think only one item, if I remember correctly, Emma might correct me on this, there's only one item that hasn't been fulfilled. That's about it really, I think, other than I do enjoy my time on the scrutiny panel and on the tenant. I'm a tenant board member as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank
Okay.
you for that, Lynn. I'm so glad that you managed to join us to share that
Yeah.
information with us. That's been really interesting, and thank you also, you know, to Emma and also to Nicola as well for joining us and telling us a bit about the great scrutiny that's happening in Star Housing. So thank you to the both. Again, there is a couple of questions. We just haven't got time to go into them today. So we'll pass them on to yourselves and hopefully you can give us a written response to those. So brilliant. We move on though, folks. We have next on the session is Wigan Council. And we've got Tom from Lee, and also we've got Liz joining us as well to tell us a bit about the stuff they're doing, some fantastic stuff at Wigan. So over to Tom and to Liz.
Morning. It's over to Liz really first.
Yeah.
Oh, are you letting me go first, Tom?
Well,
Tom's been my trusty sidekick today instead of it the other way.
Oh, Liz is frozen.
So, yeah, hello. I'm Liz. Can you hear me?
We're not getting a great sort of reception from yourself. It's dropping in and out. Do you want to have another go? If not, we might have to switch to Tom, I'm afraid.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's all right. Go for it.
Oh, we'll have a go. If not, Tom can always step in. So hello, I'm Liz Ramsden. I'm the Tenant Voice and Customer Experience Manager at Wigan Council. I've got Tom with me today from our Housing Advisory Panel. So Tom's coming to be my sidekick. He'll get me back for that. So we're just going to tell you a little bit about our See the Person, See the Home interactive training session that we've been running through with our housing staff at Wigan Council. It's a little bit different from most training. We've tried to do it quite interactive, and we've kind of built a house that we can take everyone through that does the training. The See the Person, See the Training was created through a lot of different feedback from things around our tenant satisfaction measures, our feedback from when we've held our housing advisory panel meetings, our tenant voice from different focus group meetings, and following feedback from our staff and our complaints feedback as well, all around different aspects of customer care, about stopping social housing stigma, about all the after effects from the disasters across to Rochdale and with Grenfell, and how we can stop any disasters like that happening in the future, especially around making sure that we actually listen really deeply to our tenants about what they're telling us and how we can use that information, and how we see people and really see people for who they are and the strengths that they can bring and the differences they can make when they get involved and help to influence and shape the services, and actually show how we make that difference by listening. So the training sessions were created, and Tom and the team all helped us and helped to feedback, and we went through the training and the differences that would make with Tom. And Tom, I don't know whether you want to say a little bit about that.
Yeah, it is that thing about see the person. This is my home. It's not your house, it's my home. And that does make a difference. And as you can see on the picture now, I mean, I'm sat in my workroom, office, safe space at home kind of thing. Everybody's home is different, and that's what's important. When we have contractors attending, I want them to respect my place. I want them to just recognise that I live where I live. They're here to do a particular job. Treat me with respect, treat my home with respect, and that's what matters. We recently had a kitchen installed, and the guy that came to do it was absolutely superb. He was polite, he was respectful. The company he worked for did create one or two problems. That wasn't their fault. Well, maybe it was, but we'll follow that up. But as far as he was concerned, he did a fantastic job. He respected my home, and that's at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. So this project that Liz and the team have helped to put together really does help the contractors, the visitors to our home, to understand this is where we live. We're all different. We all have our homes. Just respect them.
So the training itself, we've created a house, and it's got, when you go through the house, it's got all different aspects that you would find in any home as you go along, and then we've thrown different things in to put damp and mold in different situations, and staff need to go through that and have a look at the different things and really pull out all the good things. And we put a lot in through tenant voice. I'm always trying to get our tenant voice in there. So we've got about our garden competition and our star awards and volunteering and how that all makes a difference. But as Tom says, it's really about looking at respecting that a tenant's house is their home. It's not stock, it's not a void, it's not whatever they call it technically. It's somebody's home, and it should be respected as a home. That's where people thrive, that's where people live, and that's their safe space. And it's making sure that everyone realizes that everyone's got a job to do, but actually you're going into somebody's home. When you go into somebody's home, you treat that home like you would want somebody to treat your own. So we very much go into the values of what a home means to people and what your home means to people. So part of the values that we go through, we ask people to tell us one thing that matters most about their home. And it's been quite eye-opening for us as staff as well, when we've been facilitating this. People that come through and appreciate, we have a home, and that's a major thing. And it's about that home's your safe space that you go to at the end of the day to relax, unwind. It's where your family are, it's where your dogs are, it's wherever it is, which is your safe space. And it's about reminding people that's the same for all of us. And if you go into someone's home, they expect you to put something on your shoes. They expect you to ask if you need to go in a different room. They expect you to ask because that's what you'd expect. So it's very much about that. But then it's also about that we're not just doing a job, that we're
You're losing you a little bit, Liz. I don't quite know what happened there. You were coming through fine, and then it's
Oh, am I back?
You are.
It's because I'm just waffling on.
Oh, you've gone back onto mute again. I don't know why it keeps dropping in and out.
And I promise you, it's not me doing that.
Yeah, so it's like someone saying, "Will you shut her up?" So it's Tom usually.
I think you might be okay. Oh no, it's gone back onto mute. Yeah.
I don't know why it keeps doing that. It's got a mind. It's this technology. It's got a mind of its own. So yeah, so we're carrying out the training. We're running all our staff, any staff that have anything to do with housing, not just the housing staff, but the wider teams across Wigan Council that have an housing element are going through it. All our contractors, they're also going through it to make sure they align, because it aligns really well with Wigan Council's Progress with Unity mission statements around the borough thriving and building a better borough. And we have 6 ways of working that are not just the councils, it's the whole Wigan boroughs missions that we really look at doing the right thing and knowing, listening deeply, knowing our neighbourhoods. So it really brings in all our missions with Wigan Council into the training and how we can put that across the whole of housing and our contractors to make sure our tenants receive the best customer care that they can, and to make sure that they're really listened to deeply so that, they can influence and shape our services moving forward. Have I missed anything, Tom?
I don't think so, Liz. No, you pretty much covered it. I did get a word in a couple of times, but that was about it, I would say one of the things that really does matter to us is this relationship that we have with the staff. I'm a tenant representative. I'm a tenant. I'm proudly a tenant. But we work really closely with the staff. And somebody mentioned earlier on about you can challenge through scrutiny, but you're actually being positive. And that's really, really important. And one of the things that I think we've seen over the last few years has been that change in attitude from the council and from the council staff, that they recognise that this is our home, that they're on our side. And if we do criticise, we're doing it for the right reasons. It's not just attacking the council. So yeah, even though I live in Leigh and I don't live in Wigan.
Thank you to you both. I mean, some really good points there. I mean, what I love about this training actually is the mock house you built in the basement, because that really brings home, doesn't it? You can talk and talk and talk about what you should do, but to walk people through, operatives through a house and get them to really immerse themselves in it, I think is a fantastic idea. It really is. And some really good stuff that's going off, innovative stuff, to try and get operatives, as you said, and staff generally, and some comments in the chat about this, to recognise it's people's homes and how would they like it if it was them who was receiving what they were dishing out. So good stuff. Some questions coming in. If you get a chance to have a look at them on the chat, brilliant. If not, we'll pass them on. But just want to say a fantastic sort of presentation. Really enjoyed it, and thank you for sharing that with us today, Liz and Tom from Leigh.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, we move on again. We are now heading off to the east of the country, to Havebury, and delighted to have Alicia with us. She's been with us all week and she's contributed some fantastic stuff. So it's lovely to have her presenting with us today. So Alicia, I know you've got some slides, I think, as well, that we're hopefully going to get up. But do you want to unmute yourself and say hello?
I think I'm unmuted. I must apologise. I'm going to be the damp squib. I've done too much this week and I'm really feeling a bit under the weather. So bear with me. And I'm not going to ask for questions, but I will tell you how you can contact me and other people later on. So, okay, have we got the first?
Yes, hopefully you can see the first slide that's come up.
Yeah.
Your little pyramid or triangle.
Yeah, this is the pyramid that many of us will recognise. It's been around for a long time. And I think the initiatives that we've celebrated this week really highlight the power of us working together to embrace something more than that pyramid, a more community-based approach. Because in recent times, our engagement, tenant and resident engagement, has meant inclusion in landlord-driven projects and committees. And it is inspiring to see more tenants supported by their landlords setting the agenda and changing the conversation. And I think it's essential for the future of social housing that we receive support in taking action rather than having things done for us and done to us. 3 years ago, having held formal roles as an engaged tenant at Havebury Homes, I decided to pursue my work independently. And if anyone is interested in this, I'm perfectly happy, to have a chat via TPAS at another time. While our landlords were taking steps to close the communication loop between formally involved tenants and the executive, I felt it was highlighting other gaps more clearly. So my focus has been on closing some of the gaps nationally in tenants' understanding of their rights and responsibilities, and also working informally with the communications team at Havebury to ensure that feedback is fully looped back to our communities. Go for the next slide, please. I think we're turning that pyramid on its head, and I think our new approach, it's a new approach to old solutions. I like to call it the cone of tenant and resident communication and collaboration. It's just turning upside down. My approach focuses on engaging with tenants and residents nationally through word of mouth and social media, particularly those who may not have the time or the interest in participating in those formal tenant committees. We are developing a tenant group, me and Sue, who's also on the call today. We're both quite often on TPAS Connect. So if you're interested in joining us, contact us there. You don't have to be part of a formal organisation with your landlord. The people I've reached at Havebury have taken the information I've provided and they've shared it with their communities. And that's where I feel real pride, because I see them gaining confidence as they assist vulnerable tenants with their repair requests, complaints and service charge requests. And one of the best things to happen to me earlier in the summer was when a tenant actually quoted one of my solutions back to me, and they'd actually made it their own. So, it's moved on from me, which is what I always intended. I continue to share updates on national policies and to address specific concerns and provide seasonal advice. For instance, in autumn, I remind residents about the importance of landlord maintaining our gutters, because block gutters can lead to significant issues such as damp and mould in our homes. Just this week, I've been working with solicitors, surveyors and fellow tenants. Once again, shout out to Sue, because it looks like we're finally going to get something done about claims farmers. Once again, contact us if you're interested in giving evidence. But having said all this, at the beginning of the year, I realised that it wasn't enough. And luckily, as I was contemplating ways to further develop my ideas, and if I could have the next slide, please. I received an invitation from Havebury Homes to join the Independent East Residents Voice Panel, or the IERVP. I'm just going to share a very brief overview of the initiatives, the objectives we aim to accomplish, and the strategies we plan to implement. Next slide, please. Back in 2021, Broadland, Freebridge, Havebury, Orwell and Saffron came together to create a collective voice for social housing in the east of England. Their aim was sharing knowledge, experience and good practice, as well as creating a collective lobbying voice for social housing in the region. We have an isolated or rural area with a lot of isolation, so we don't have the same issues as some of the inner city areas have. And it's issues that matter to them and to us as tenants and residents, the things that they've picked up from doing their more formal approach to engagement. Independent East is a collaborative alliance, as I say, 5 community housing associations, mostly Suffolk and Norfolk, but we're actually spreading into Cambridgeshire, East Essex. So it's kind of, I always look at it as the belly of the UK. You know, we're kind of filling the belly of the UK. And together they manage more than 31,000 homes of different tenures. However, it is also about exploring opportunities to work better together, and that's where we come in. So next slide, please. I'm part of a new group of engaged tenant scrutineers advocating for a tenant-led regional voice in social housing. Most of us are also engaged in formal scrutiny at our respective housing associations. I'm not, because as I explained earlier, I withdrew from the formal positions at Havebury, but I still consider myself a tenant scrutineer, and I'm involved with the TPAS Scrutiny Club, which I would advise anyone who's interested in scrutiny to join. We are currently a very small group, but we're all knowledgeable about various issues. And I think it's proved to be more critical for us to have diverse perspectives on the topics we're discussing than for us to know every bit of legislation, because we can always look that up. And we all share a natural talent for viewing problems from different angles. So I think that's the strength. And I would appeal to any of you who've got that different way of looking at things to consider scrutiny. At the moment, we hold one meeting each month, lasting between an hour and 90 minutes. Some of our members can't attend every meeting due to additional responsibilities. Some of them are carers, some of them are not very well. So when they do participate, they contribute brilliant ideas, and we appreciate their input, which helps us to stay on the right track. We also have a WhatsApp group where we communicate between meetings and share ideas, and that allows those other people to be involved at that stage, and we take their ideas forward to the meeting. The important thing is that the 5 CEOs agreed to put money aside to fund it, which has enabled TPAS to be involved, and that is the real biggie, I have to say. Next slide, please. As I say, we have the backing of all 5 CEOs. We have invaluable support from Sam, who's a senior TPAS associate, who is temporarily chairing our meetings until we find our feet. And we also have full admin support from Lillian, who's the executive PA at Havebury. We're using a process of genuine tenant-led scrutiny, and we aim to strengthen the regional tenant-landlord relationships by increasing the transparency of service management. And that, once I say again, it's about passing it back to all tenants. That transparency thing is very important. Enhancing tenant satisfaction as well, and reducing costs based on our scrutiny, and using that, you know, whole group, they have more buying power. So that's something we have already started to suggest. And we also use the tenant satisfaction measures to actually find out what the tenants are saying. So far, we've been given access to everything we've asked for, so we're able to base our recommendations on the same trends that our landlords and the individual resident committees are using. However, while we at the beginning of every piece of scrutiny, and we've kind of completed one, and I explain what I'm saying kind of completed a bit later on. We asked them to give us an overview. We then examine everything from a very nuanced perspective. So it is a slightly different slant than everyone else who's looking at those same sets of trends and statistics, which will then, and this is what we're looking at the moment, will become part of the internal benchmarking process. So we'll be able to see, you know, what the differences are, and hopefully that show that we're of some benefit. And that will be the bigger question that I'm interested in looking at, will be how the regional resident voice differs from that of the individual housing association tenant. We're putting forward proposals, some of which are being accepted perhaps more readily than we expected. We are getting, I'll be honest, we're getting pushback on other proposals, mostly around cost. And AWAB's law was a bit of scrutiny, so I think you probably understand why we're getting a lot of pushback about cost. We're about to embark on our second piece of scrutiny around ASB, but the scrutiny regarding our first piece is still ongoing. And we've gone back to all 5 landlords who've said cost, you know, about there's a cost involved. We don't know that we can afford it. We'll consider it next year. We've actually gone back to them and said, tell us what the costs are. Give us the costs. And, you know, we're not just going to accept that they're telling us that it is about cost. Next slide, please.
Sorry, Alicia, I've had to take the slides down because we're running quite a bit behind time now. So I don't know if you were able to summarise your next 2 slides. Apologies for this, but we have...
Okay, not a problem. We have got the landlords have trusted us and granted us the freedom to choose the topics and the areas that we choose, that we want to talk about. We've been surprised that we are actually offering something to the executives at the housing associations, because we provide a valuable space for them to communicate with one another. Because a tenant platform, which as is, has a very different vibe to those they're probably more used to. And we assume that they have endless opportunities to talk with each other. So it's been a pleasant surprise that as they've watched each other's presentations, they find things they like about the way that the other 4 work. One example was that within our group, we'd spoken about the stigma attached to having a damp and mould team visit our home. We wanted to look at renaming it something a bit less negative, and Havebury were already calling theirs the Healthy Homes team. When they all sat down together and looked at the presentations, they decided they all preferred the Healthy Homes option. So it's something that they sold to each other before we made it one of our recommendations. I think that's basically, you know, all that I've got to say. If you want to want to talk any more about what you can do as an individual rather than as someone that's part of a group, I am on TPAS and LinkedIn, and I'd love you to look. I did a talk earlier this week with Raj at the Housing Shift podcast, which talks a bit more about my views, and I'd love you to take a look at that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alicia. And apologies, we've had to sort of condense things a little bit, but I think everyone's got a really good overview of the fantastic work that group of residents did. And there's some questions as well in the chat, which we will put to you and get some response. But thank you ever so much for joining us and sharing your experiences and insights. Much appreciated. Okay, we move on. We have 2 more to fit in before we finish at 1. So I'm delighted to welcome Sue from Pioneer, who's going to join us to talk a little bit about the work that they're doing there. So I don't know if you can hear me at all, Sue. If you can, unmute yourself and say hello.
Yeah, I've got to pick. Yes, I can. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can,
Right.
Sue.
I'll try and be concise. Basically, I've been a volunteer most of my adult life, but I got really involved when the Housing Action Trust after was offered to Castle Vale, which was in 1992. And that's when I got involved. I became part of the community action team. So we worked with all the tenants on the estate to, first of all, the biggest thing we did, we got the resident reps on the board moved from 3 to 4. So we had a stronger voice on the Housing Action Trust. Over the estate, we formed lots of groups, so everybody got involved. Back in those days, we didn't have scrutiny panel. We just got up, you know, we had local liaison groups and things, and we worked together. When the actual was coming to an end, a lot of tenants were then involved with doing the question and answer session for the ballot, whether we should go back to Birmingham City Council or to become a community-based housing association. And the result of that was 92% of tenants voted to go with Castle Vale, which was a really great result for us, and we went on from there. I lived in a tower block where I'd lived for 15 years, so it was really a no-brainer for me. Nothing had ever been done, and yeah. And then I'll just jump to present day. On our scrutiny panel, we had a concern about the complaints. So we did a review because our satisfaction survey was down to 33%, which was not good. So scrutiny panel recommended recruiting a complaints officer, which was successfully recruited for, as well as a more comprehensive training programme assembled for the investigation officers. The scores have now improved drastically, and we are at a 63% satisfaction year to date. But this is an ongoing process and will be reviewed by our resident scrutiny panel. We now also have a customer influence committee. What was CVCHA back in the day has now gone. It's all gone under the Pioneer name. So CVCHA no longer exists, which is quite upsetting for me because I've been there from the beginning, but you have to move on. So we have what's now called a customer influence committee. I've had to step down from the scrutiny panel because I've gone back onto the main board and we can't be on both. We also started having a lot of tenant drop-in sessions across the estate where we go to like outside the supermarket, outside the shop, whatever, and set up a table so tenants can come along and voice any queries they've got. So if they don't want to go to a meeting, but they could talk to. We have a great councillor who actually works on the estate as well, and he's always trying to sort the rubbish out at the moment because obviously with the litter bin strike and everything. And I think basically I put on the bottom, I think the biggest things we can do is build trust with our tenants, take people along with you, don't let anyone down, and don't promise what you can't deliver. And I think, so on the whole, I think the scrutiny panel, we're trying to build, I think a lot of people now have got, they're happy with the house, we've got new doors and windows, we've got all the rest of it. They don't really necessarily want to get involved with meetings. So it's a way of reaching them by going out to them into the community. And then I'm in touch with the chair of the scrutiny panel so we can swap thoughts and ideas. So I think that's the best way forward. So I've cut it down to make up some space.
Oh, no, I mean, Sue, that's wonderful because I think I had the opportunity and the privilege to go and visit Pioneer. And they're based in Birmingham, and we did a site visit as part of Place Papers. And I think the fantastic work that's going off there. There was a brilliant community centre that we visited, and also we went to the football ground as well that they've got up and running there as well at Pioneer. And I think what stood out for me is that you've got some great stuff going off in the community at grassroots, but it filters, as you say, all the way through to the scrutiny, to the customer voice, to tenants being on the board as well. So there's some fantastic links there, Sue, isn't it? And I think you being involved again for so long, and it's brilliant to see so many people have sort of, you know, stood the test of time and are still involved in stuff. So I guess for you, you must have seen a lot of things that have changed as a result of tenants getting involved. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we also have a swimming pool as well.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, I was amazed. I didn't see the swimming pool though, so I don't know where that was happening. But yeah,
I go to aquarobics on a Tuesday. So no, it's I think it is good because it's very much everybody looks out for it. It's a bit like I grew up in Aston, and it's a bit like the atmosphere then. Everybody knew everybody and helped out with everybody, and it's a bit like it's very much a community base, and it always has been. Somebody knows somebody. It's obviously a change in culture now because we have a lot more ethnicity than we had before. We were very much white British, but which is good because they've been integrated into the estate. So I think it all makes a difference. We just need more people on scrutiny panel, but we'll keep on trying with that. So.
I'm sure you will, and we wish you all the luck in the world with getting new people on board. I know that can always be a challenge, but I think when they see what difference it makes and the good stuff that you're doing, I'm sure that'll be a real sort of attraction to get more people involved. So I've really enjoyed listening to what you're doing at Pioneer, Sue, and also to sort of understand your journey and what you've been doing as well. So thank you ever so much for sharing that with us. I really do appreciate it. I'm sure everyone else does as well. And if there are any questions, we'll pass them on, and hopefully you can give us a response to them.
Hi Becky.
Hello to you, which is fantastic. So thank you, Sue, and thanks to Pioneer, and some really good stuff there. So last but not least, our last 10 minutes of today is going to be handing over to Westwood Housing and to Jack Beer, who's going to talk a little bit about the customer roadshows there. So Jack, I hope you can hear me if you want to say hello, and over to yourself.
Hi, Louise. Thank you, and thank you everyone for staying on and listening to me. I'll get you finished by 1 o'clock. Don't worry. Yeah, I wanted to come along and talk a little bit. First of all, I just want to say thank you for TPAS for putting on the Involvement Week. I think it's been amazing to hear from everyone in terms of involvement and just so many inspiring kind of things going on across the country. From Westwood, we're a housing association in the southwest of England. We've got 7,500 homes across Devon and Cornwall. And kind of the nature of our work and the involvement that we do is that we've got quite a lot of rural housing and quite a sporadic stock across Devon and Cornwall. Devon and Cornwall, for anyone that's ever been, is actually quite a large portion of the country. The transportation links are quite difficult here, and we have our challenges with engagement activities, particularly out and about in our neighbourhoods as well. So we've also just turned 60 years of age. So Westwood has been providing affordable homes in Devon and Cornwall for 60 years in 2025. And we wanted to spend a little bit of time out and about with our customers in their communities, understanding a little bit about some of the challenges that they face and some of the things that they would like to see improved in terms of their neighbourhoods as well. So we did a summer roadshow out with customers, and we went and visited 6 neighbourhoods across our stock. And that was a little bit driven in terms of the tenant satisfaction measures and some of the areas that we'd had across our communities where we potentially had lower satisfaction levels than we would have expected in those communities, and particularly in terms of that question around the contribution that Westwood make to their neighbourhood as well. So and actually kind of what we found with that is quite often those areas where we had a slightly lower level of satisfaction, particularly in terms of the contribution that we as a landlord have with those customers, is where potentially they are more rural areas. They are areas that we may not necessarily always get out to as frequently as we might have hoped to, because of the challenges in terms of getting out to those neighborhoods and speaking to those customers. So we spent 6 days out with some of those customers, out with those neighbors, and we talked about some of the things that we could be doing as an organization with customers and having those communications. Initially, and a little bit of learning that we took from these sessions was, initially we went out with the idea that we were going to go out with surveys and we were going to speak to people and we were going to note down their answers on a scale of satisfied to dissatisfied and work their way through that kind of those structures of things with people. But actually when we went out and about, it felt wholly unnatural to be standing on someone's doorstep and having those conversations with 5 different ways of kind of prioritizing things and working through a survey with customers. And actually what we needed to do is empower colleagues to have those more natural conversations with people. How are things going? How can we improve your neighborhood? Is there any things that aren't working for you in terms of the service that you get from us as an organization? And actually trusting colleagues and the people that we employ to be able to get a really good feel of what a neighborhood is and what the priorities of the customers are in terms of their neighborhoods as well. And actually, giving colleagues the empowerment to do what we ask them to do and what we pay them to do as employees for the organization, which is to understand what customers want from us and understand what customers need from their neighborhood as well. So we've been working. And actually that's been a really successful thing, because I think what we've got from that not only is some really good feedback from customers about how we can improve the neighborhoods that they live and how we can make sure that the services that we provide are what they need from us, but also just a build of rapport in terms of our colleagues and our customers as well. Building those relationships so that they are long-standing and mean that when challenging times might occur within someone's neighborhood, our customers have got a face and they've got a name of a colleague that they know, that they've had positive conversations with, and actually that there's an element of trust there, that actually we are working to do the best we possibly can in terms of our customers. And we have a real deep desire to make sure that our customers' homes and their neighborhoods meet what they need, and our services do the same as well. I think I pretty much talked that out in terms of what we've done. I'm conscious of time, and obviously if there is any questions as well, but generally, I guess what I would kind of finish on in terms of our learning is there is a time and a place for structure in terms of the feedback that we get from our customers, and the data and how that can drive things and how that can help to make sure that we are making good and correct decisions in terms of our customers. But I wouldn't necessarily play down the emphasis of having more natural conversations with customers, and giving customers the opportunity to lead where things may go in terms of their community, in terms of their neighborhoods, and in terms of their homes as well. So that would be my emphasis and my takeaway in terms of involvement in those 60th roadshow events as well.
Brilliant, Jack. I think that's an excellent top tip at the end there, and one, I think we all need to kind of be mindful of, because I think we all do that, don't we? We set up with a structure and a set of ways of how this is going to work, but the richness sometimes and the insight and that trust is built through those natural conversations where you're just having that conversation, that chat, and things develop wherever they develop.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is this something you will repeat again, do you think? Is it something that you're looking to do next year, maybe?
We need to do more of it. I mean, whether we will do it as intensively as the 6 events through the 6 weeks in the summer, I'm not sure, but it's certainly something that we need to keep doing. We do have our challenges in Devon and Cornwall in terms of getting out and about and face to face with people, but we understand and what these events have shown us is the benefits to that we can get there as well. So it's certainly something that we'll be looking into.
Definitely. And the staff that went out, were they kind of asked if they wanted to do it, or was it sort of a selection of staff? How did you sort of decide who would go out and do the road shows?
A real selection, and so that we tried to make sure that we could capture as many different queries from our customers as we possibly could on the day as well. So we had staff members from our housing team, from our property team, from my team as well. So from engagement specifically, right across the different areas of the organisation as well, because we just wanted to make sure that we captured as many different, firstly, that we captured as many different kind of queries that customers may have as possible, but then also that any learning that was taken from those events was taken into the teams as well, so that more directly our colleagues were hearing directly from customers as well, because that's where you get that best case in terms of changing the services that you're providing and making sure that they work for customers as well.
Definitely. And again, as you say, customers then recognise a face, they know a person. Again, that's such an important part, isn't it, on how can work effectively together. So yeah, really good insight and a great project to have been involved in. So you'll have to let us know if you're running it again next year.
Yeah, I will. I will. Yeah.
Tell us all about it. But brilliant. Thank you for that, Jack, and thanks for sharing that. And I think it's just been fascinating these last 2 hours, how we've kind of been on a really interesting journey, haven't we, in terms of the engagement experiences that people have shared with us today from across the country. We've ranged from everything from scrutiny to the roadshows, to the Tenants Association, to the fantastic work of the community ambassadors, and all the great stuff that's happening in Wigan as well with their training. And that general sort of updates that people have given us about their personal experiences, particularly sort of what Joan was saying. And also we heard from Sue at Pioneer about their kind of involvement over the years as well. So I think it's been a real microcosm, if you like, of really the fantastic work that's happening that we see regularly at TPAS. So I cannot thank our presenters enough for giving their time up to come today and share their stories with you. And I love the stories. Data is great and there's a place for it, but doesn't it really make a difference when we hear stories from real people telling us about the work that they're doing? So a big, big thank you to them. And a big, big thank you to yourselves. I know I've not been able to bring many of you into the conversation today. That's simply because we've not had time. But a lot of you have put things in the chat. We will pick up on that, and we will make sure the video is available as well if people want to watch that back, and they can do that in their own time. So, folks, that is the end of this wonderful showcase spotlight session. And it's nearly the end of our National Involvement Week as well. We are looking to finish off with a final session, a closing session from me on YouTube channel. So if you want to head over there, I'll be there at 3 o'clock just wrapping things up for the week. But it's been a fantastic week, I've got to say. So much going off, so many people contributing. So I just want to say to you, thank you for being part of it. And look after yourselves, everyone, for the rest of the day. Batten down those hatches, grab yourself a good cup of tea. And my advice is to sit on the sofa and watch the telly, unless you're at work, obviously, like me. And I will be carrying on working very hard for the rest of the So thank you, everyone. Look after yourselves. Take care. And we will see you all again very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.